Hi guys, welcome back to another video. Peter Kennedy, Kennedy's Garage, Portlaw. Today we were in a 2019 Skoda Superb is what she is. Don't actually see the miles, but I have 171,000 kilometers on it, so 171,000 kms. Problem is check engine light on, needing to be diagnosed. Man has given me a couple of bits and pieces of notes that he had a couple of items changed. He had some kind of a sensor on the top of the engine. I don't know what that is. Didn't even pull the bonnet as of yet, but we're going to do it there in a second. My guts are nearly telling me straight away on that we're probably going to have a P2002 or 200 or whatever lads call it. I kind of lose the 2 zeros at the end just for my own sake, but I just said it's kind of funny when you go diagnose these things. Am I going to be right or am I going to be wrong? P2002. Now I haven't been in here yet, so I do not know what we're going to get. Good few faults in here. Okay. Oh. Yeah, simples we don't read. Steering wheel malfunction, error received, data bus error received. Yeah, we don't care about any of this thing. Air quality sensor fault. Okay, so all the man is after basically is that. Do I need to do any more diagnosing on this thing? I have actually just took off my headlight because a lot of people say to me, I wouldn't recognize you without the headlight when we meet each other in person. So headlight is gone. On these things, what I believe happens, and this is just my explanation, trying to make sense of where we're at. So our fault code is particle trap bank 1 efficiency below threshold. Sometimes on my explanations people understand what I'm saying, and then sometimes on my explanations it doesn't come across quite right, but where I'm at on these things anyway. So an EGR cooler is going to be restricted on this car, okay? So what in theory we have is an EGR valve. I should probably draw this or put it in a written format. An EGR valve that opens. That is an exhaust gas recirculation valve. Basically, we have a pipe coming from our diesel particulate filter up to the valve, which is a door basically that opens and closes. Then we have that exhaust gas traveling on through the EGR cooler, and then it goes back into the engine. So what the car or the cooler is trying to do is to cool down that exhaust gas before it enters the engine. It has no oxygen in it, which is good for NOx gases. So with a reduction in oxygen or air with no oxygen in it, it's kind of like putting your hand over a candle that's in a glass. It'll go out immediately. So that air that is hot going into the engine with no oxygen in it reduces the, I was going to say the burn temperature, but the actual very, very high temperatures in the cylinders of the engine. Above 1800 degrees, it actually creates NOx gases. AdBlue is introduced to reduce NOx. EGR valves are introduced to reduce NOx. And all this is, NOx is very bad for the environment, okay? So it's going to save the world and all that kind of stuff. What I'm saying happens anyway. Our EGR valve opens, the exhaust gas should in theory flow in through and into the engine. If the EGR valve opens, our DPF pressure drops because the pressure of the exhaust gas coming out, having to get through or force their way through the diesel particulate filter, they don't have to force their way through the DPF anymore. They're coming through the EGR cooler, which in turn drops or reduces our exhaust differential pressure from the DPF. It also will give us a reduction in airflow coming through the airflow meter and into the engine. So if that makes any sense to you, the reason I believe that we're getting that fault, particle trap bank 1, is simply due to the exhaust pressures, the differential pressure, staying high when the EGR valve opens, because we should have flow, but we don't. And by not having flow, we don't have a reduction in differential pressure, and we also don't have a reduction in airflow numbers, if that makes sense. So it boils down to basically, it cannot tell us the EGR cooler is blocked because it's a steel or a mechanical lump of iron. There's no electronic things connected to it. It's only doing its best from the sensors that are around it. Okay, so that's it. We kind of need a diesel particulate filter. We kind of need a EGR cooler on this. Not so bad to change into the back of the engine. They're far easier than the Audi A6, which has the longitudinal engine. This Skoda Superb has a transverse engine, which is across the way, and the EGR coolers are easier to get at. Okay, that's where we're at on this thing. I'm going to go along, try and get authorization on the job or the repair, and at that stage then we will continue on our video on the fitting of this EGR cooler, okay, to make this problem go away. Okay guys, about 2 weeks have passed and the customer has given authorization for our EGR cooler to be replaced on this thing. I'm just doing, before we get this cooler into it and start fitting it, I'm going to have a look just to see what engine codes are in here. We're not concerned with these other yokes, but we are concerned with that. Okay, P2002 or P200200, sometimes, as I said, call them. The rest of the crap, as I said, we don't really care about that stuff. Steering wheel malfunction. I think we had an invalid data received air quality sensor. Yeah, look, you don't need to see that stuff. We're only focusing on that for today. Okay, trying to get my items in hand and start trying to get this cooler maybe out. Just make sure our parts are correct first and the same, so when we disassemble we can actually fit the right items. That is going to bolt in straight away rather than, oh, it's a problem, it's wrong. So always verify your parts first. So we're going to get the parts, have a look, and get this thing stripped. Walked down to the office to get our EGR cooler. So there, oop, she actually is. That's the beast. Weirdly, didn't find a box. I only found it wrapped in that, but neither here nor there. Part numbers I can see on it. You can see that. I don't know which one of them is going to be, but some of those. Anyway, what has happened on these things is they've slightly changed. So I believe, now I could be wrong, but I believe if we take out that EGR cooler, that we're going to see the holes that are in them are kind of circle, where on these ones they're kind of rectangular rather than circular. And if we get in here, I could be wrong, but I believe that it is going to be, as I said, kind of a circular holes rather than those square type holes, you know, or ones with 90-degree corners. But that's it anyway. I'm going to get in, get out our airbox, get out our battery, try and start making a bit of room in here. I get out as much of these air intake pipes to clean out a bit of room in here. It's from here I'm heading in and going to get in to get this thing replaced. I've quite simply removed a bit of plastic sitting across there. That joke. 2 T25 Torx sitting one there, one there. Airbox popped in, air pipe off, and out that comes. Then this little air pipe that sits in there, sits there, comes off again with a little T25 Torx just sitting in there. Okay, so that items are off now. We have a particulate matter sensor or something sitting in there, so that just pops out with a little clip just there. And now we're going to take out that little battery tray, get a little bit more access. She's actually, it lives just down it in there. Okay, so that's the very end of it right there. So we're going to get off this intercooler pipe, etc. Then we should be able to get a good visual on the thing. Access is granted. Intercooler pipe from here to here, taken off, and lo and behold, there she goes. So that is the actual EGR cooler. From memory, when doing these things, we need to get off that little heat shield there, and I think once that's off, it's a little bit awkward to get in at the bolt that's holding that bracket there. There's kind of a supporting frame, whatever you want to call it, that has to come off. But I think that bolt is a little bit grumpy and a little bit awkward, and I can't remember what tooling I need to do that, but we'll figure it out as we go. For now, I'm going to get in, I'm going to remove that bit of a pipe, I'm going to remove the EGR valve that's sitting in at the bottom. There's 3 bolts holding her there, and once that's off, again we're gaining more access, getting a bit more room step by step and along the way. Nice, actually sunny day out there, so when it gets warm, weirdly I don't wear the gloves sometimes because my hands be sweating underneath it. So sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Might have them on me in 5 minutes.
for now. A bit warm. I even have the groovy shorts on, guys. Happy days. Your knees to be in an awful state, but lo and behold, you don't be boiling over, so hey ho. Okay, time to get in, get that pipe off, get the EGR valve off, and yeah, keep on going. 3 bolts out of the EGR valve, gives me a bit of room, and at that stage I can disconnect my block connector once I manipulate that into a position that I can actually get access to it to it. EGR valve, pulled out, sitting up there. Nice and easy to get the wiring harness once it's just, you know, manipulated out a little bit. Have also leaned in there and I took out that bolt. It's actually a size 10 spline key, but I just use a little short one with a ratchet spanner just to spin that out. So that bit is gone. Then we have, if we want to look at our EGR cooler here, we have 2 water pipes. One just under where the EGR valve bolts on, and then one a little bit higher up. So I'm going to take off the 2 pipes now. Outside of that then, we have solely and only, if we can see it, can we? Let's see. I'm going to get a visual on this. There's a little bracket just in there, but it's only kind of a U-clamp. It sits around that piece there and sandwiches together with a bolt pulling. And it's a 27, I believe, or maybe a T27 or T30 Torx, which is just coming from the back in. And I find once you get it out, hit the bracket, it tap, and it'll kind of fall off, and you can manipulate your EGR cooler out at that stage. So next step is 2 water pipes off, crimp them, lock them, something so I don't lose much coolant, and then we're going to take off the bracket to get the cooler out. Should be out in about 10 or 15 minutes. Water pipes, actually there's one of them just hung back out here. That, because it's connected over here with a water pump on it, has no coolant coming out of it. The second one from this pipe here, I've taken off here. I have a little, if you can see, a little bluey grommet in it, and just wedged it up on top of the turbo. Now what I used a lot of the times, and sometimes you're going to find that kind of a yoke pretty easy. So basically it's just a circlip pliers, is it, or whatever you're going to call it. Tube clip, I can't, water hose pliers, I don't know what the heck, with a cable on it to get in at more awkward spots. So that's off. At this stage I'm rolling in to take out the bracket, and I'm going to try and get out this EGR valve, or sorry, this EGR cooler. Once I get the bracket off, will I get you a better visual on the bracket at this stage? Maybe you might just see a little bit more. That is one side of the bracket there, and then the bolt for the other side of it, which I can't see. I can see myself, but I can't see it on camera. There she is. Okay, in there. You see that? That's her. That's the bolt anyway. But I need to get a little T27 Torx in the back of it to take off that clamp. EGR cooler out. Not gonna tell you lies, guys, but I had to unbolt this bracket to pull it back a little bit, and I also had to pull off another second little water pipe here just to pull get a little bit more room so I could actually get in to get it out. So that is what you'll wind up looking in at. There's a bracket that's actually just expanded around it, and what I do see is I don't like the look of this. So has it been leaking coolant or something? I don't like that residue. I'm going to do a test on it and just see what the heck. There's kind of a horrible substance in there also. Whatever the heck it is. Doesn't really matter if it is leaking because it's been replaced. But anyway, at this point in time, we are renewing this, and I'm kind of setting myself up to dunk it in the back vat of water just to see if it is leaking and pressure it. Yeah, that's it. We'll get this thing tested and then start reinstating. Now, testing it, lads, and on it, and I can get bubbles and see bubbles coming from it. So I'm basically, I needed 2 hands. I need, my blowgun gives me too much pressure on that. Neither here or there. I kind of knew that was going to happen, but it is leaking, so I'm happy enough that I'm going to put that new one back in. Guys, another little test that I've done is I've just tried to blow air through the nose of it here. 50% of them are plain solidly blocked, and then 50, maybe 60% I was starting to get, you know, this crap out of it. So I suppose it's congealed coolant, etc. I have maybe a little bit of a doubt in my head as well, and I know that thing is leaking, but is there something in my head that lads have been stating about maybe intercoolers leaking on these things also? I don't know why I have that fear in my head as well. Customer has said that he doesn't have a huge drop in coolant happening, but yet if we look at it, it's maybe just slightly below the max minimum, but he said he doesn't have any drop in coolant. Maybe we have no issue here, maybe I'm being overly cautious, but is there, maybe you can say, let me know, is there something here where these things start to leak? I can't pressure test it now via, you know, a coolant system pressure test kit because I have a lot of pipes disconnected. So I'm going to reinstate the new cooler because I'm happy enough that that one is crap and leaking and full of gunk, which in theory has given us a restriction, which has given us our P2002. I'm going to reinstate that, and at that stage then I'm going to possibly pressure test. Once I've just a cooler in, the pipes connected, and you know the misdemeanor is not put together, I might pressure test it then once my coolant system is back in one piece and see what happens. Sitting in place, water hose is connected. I think I'm going to roll on a bit, lads. I think I'm going to fill, start, run, get any air pockets or any of this thing out of it before, if I have any doubt about putting a pressure tester on. I just didn't like the look of some of that stuff, but I think I'm going to reinstate everything. So my EGR valve, my particulate matter sensor, my battery tray. They're only kind of frivolous stuff, but I think I might put them in now just to get the car running and then see where I stand, and if the pressure test drive me from there if needs be. But I don't think so. I think we're done. I don't think we have to start worrying about this thing. I'm probably being overly cautious. As I said, guys, I'm a little bit maybe of a doubting Thomas. So what I've done is I've disconnected the two pipes off the cooler, the intercooler, and which is integrated into the intake manifold, and I have blocked one pipe and put a Mittivac is all on the opposite side. I'm holding pressure, but I did also send up a borescope or a camera inside in the actual intake manifold, and sometimes it's a little bit awkward, a little bit hard for me to see this, but it doesn't look also that picturesque in there. Anytime I'm doing it with one hand, it can be a little bit messy. There's a relatively good image of the intake manifold and intercooler combined, but again, look, you know, we are holding pressure, so maybe I'm just again being foolhardy, but for now anyway, that's only just my own discrepancies. I'm going to roll on, I'm going to squeeze up all this stuff, and we'll do a close up in about 5 or 10 15 minutes. Battery tray back in, guys. Intercooler pipe back in, air intake pipe, PCV valve back on, EGR hose down the back. I don't know if I showed that or not. But it's all getting back together. Nearly, very close to the home run now, to be honest with you. Time for a top of a coolant. Shouldn't be much in there, but kind of a complex cooling system, which in theory has 3 separate, chambers. 1 is the main engine, 2 is the actual heater matrix, and 3 then is for that intercooler there underneath that bit of a rag. Okay, so because of that, I'm actually drawing a vacuum in it in order to fill the cooling system. Basically, all that does, turn on one tap, draws a vacuum in the cooling system. As you see it there now. And then when I turn on the opposite tap here, it just gurgles antifreeze out of just an empty gallon. It had blue actually, gallon that we had there. Once we get up to where we're wanting to be, she just basically raises off. That's it. So all you're doing, draw a vacuum in the system with the airline, then switch off that tap, switch on the other tap, and then that vacuum sucks or draws that coolant up out of our catch can down. Back together again. Just had to give the engine a splash of water. Time to do a couple of miles. Make sure I'm happy. Then tomorrow or so give the car back to the customer once I'm in a position where I'm feeling comfortable. That is it, guys. We are back after a 25-8 mile spin, jaunt. The only fault code I have in there is that one at this point in time. Steering mechanical malfunction. Don't know if that makes any odds to anyone. If they know anything of that one, let me know, please. C10AC07. But I just ran through all the variables. I looked at steering angle when I was out for a drive, etc. If I'm looking at, just to show that we have, maybe I have to start to move, have I first? So my little lines for reversing, etc. are working, so you can see that the steering angle is doing exactly what it's meant to do. But anyway, neither here nor there. For that, I don't know, I hope this is somebody good to someone. And again, if you know anything of that, intercoolers, I think they do fail on these things. I just didn't like that Sulok, I'm going to call it, inside in the intake manifold and or down around the EGR cooler. For now, yeah, we're calling it a fix, a done. Alarm went off on my phone. Happy. Anyway, at this stage, ready for the car to go back to the customer. And yeah, hopefully it's some bit of help to someone for changing the cooler in these time frames. If you're efficient on the likes of these things, you could probably do it very fast. If you're not very efficient, probably take you a bit longer. Time scale would have taken you, the lad that's starting out, maybe 4, 5, 6 hours. Don't know. Depends on how fluent you're going to be. But anyway, a little bit of work involved, not so bad. Not as bad as the Audi A6, but yeah, EGR coolers, they get restricted very often, giving you a P2002. Lads, please like and subscribe. Talk to you all in the next cartoon. And yeah, thanks for watching. Peter Kennedy signing out. See you later, boys.